What's going on, y'all? Another random topic video. Today's topic is called Millennials. Millennials, we are the future. Why are we the future? Because the older generation had their time, and the younger generation isn't ready for it to be their time. So now it's our time, And millennials, we're a very special group of young people. Unlike any generation that came before us. Now, I'm sure everybody could say that about their generation, but I see things in my generation that there's a lot of artistic people in our generation, more so than ever. There's a lot of people who don't want to live by the status quo and feel very constricted, almost like we're in prison, living that 9 to 5 life. That life that most of our parents, most of our teachers, they pushed us into. Since we was young, they told us, you go to school, graduate, you go to college, you graduate from there, you get a nice job, marry a nice girl, live an average life, and go to some PTA meetings, go to some soccer games, and then that's it. Our generation, we're too artistic to live by that standard. A lot of us have tried and failed miserably. A lot of us have succeeded, are miserable. I'm one of the few who decided that, I'm going to step outside of the box, so to speak. I'm going to step outside of the norm. Even though I followed the same path that a lot of people followed, I went to school, I went to college, graduated, didn't do so many, didn't do too well in the female department, but I'm paying bills, I'm living an average life of everyone. I go to work, I come back, there's not much else going on. Picking up a lot of overtime. Overtime's a lot of thing that that's what my generation lives for. When I was in college, they would ask us, what are the most important aspects of, that you would find in a career? Majority of us put money. It was number one on everyone's list, money. But as we got older, and I know me, it was a point where I had $28,000 in my bank account. I could buy anything I want. I ate takeout every single day, had all the new clothes, had all the new video games, anything I wanted, but I still wasn't happy. I'm going into a job that I just don't like, living a life that I just don't like. And I'm like, what's wrong? I have $28,000 in my bank account, more money, I overheard my mom saying one time to her friend, she never seen, I think it was like 16,000 in an account. Meanwhile, I'm sitting there with 28,000 in my account. But I don't want to digress. I want to get back to what I want to talk to today. Why is this generation geared towards leading us into the future? A lot of the older generation, the baby boomers, the Gen Xers, they're looking at us like, man, these guys are still at home with their parents. The future's doomed. But I feel like we're primed to take over. But the thing about it was, everything we doing now, we learned from them. In order for us to take leadership and take control of the future like the new generation is supposed to, we've been following the old blueprint, trying to do things the way things were, as opposed to doing things the way things should be in the future. And so let me go back and say, a lot of us grew up, if you was born in the late 80s, early 90s, you grew up before technology really took over. Technology was always around, don't get it twisted, but it wasn't as prominent as it is now. There were no smartphones. Everything wasn't instantly in the palm of your hand at the click of a button, at the swipe of a touchscreen. I grew up playing outside, going outside, playing sports. The computer was almost another game to us. It was like a video game system almost. Just something you pick up whenever you wanted to entertain yourself. It wasn't like the function of life, something that you had to have. I got nieces that's, one of them is 4 going on 5, other one is 7. They already have smartphones. I didn't get a phone till I was in like high school. And even at that, it was just a little Nokia, just to call it. I think it could have went on the internet, but it was very slow. It really just wasn't worth it. I'd rather just go on the computer. It wasn't until college that I got my first smartphone, which had the Sidekick 3. And the only reason I got that was because I found some money on the floor, found like $700 on the floor. I took 400 of it and bought a Sidekick. That's the only reason I got it. I mean, this generation, they're getting these devices at so young of an age. They're used to any information they want, it's in the palm of their hand. Any song they want is in the palm of their hand. My generation, we had to grow up listening by the radio, going to the store, like the Family Dollar, buying little blank cassette tapes and listening to the radio for my favorite song, just to be able to have it and put it in my Walkman and be able to walk around. Eventually, CDs came. A friend of mine, or whatever friend I had that would buy an album, I would go borrow it from them, copy it on my computer, and burn it to my blank CD disc, and then have it for my my CD player. That's just what it was. And if I wanted to see a music video, I had to sit by the television and hope that BET or MTV played it. Those was back in the days. There was gatekeepers that decided what music was to be played. And even the way it was before with the gatekeepers, we weren't getting all the music. We weren't getting a lot of the underground acts. We weren't getting a lot of the unique, talented acts that may not have made music tailored for the mainstream, but still great music nonetheless. So everything that I was listening to growing up was pretty much force fed to me. We had no other choice, unless you really, really into the underground and you went searching for it. And that was some real work. You had to probably go to like an open mic and the average person, we just got used to that style. If something didn't reach our ear through the normal channels, MTV, BET, radio, probably would never hear of it. That's just the way things were. Now everything, if I want to see a video, I could go on YouTube. If I want to listen to some music, I could go on a streaming service, or I could just burn it online. Why even pay for it, right? It's just the difference in things. Now, I think growing up in that era, it gave us a lot of patience. Even though I feel like society's moving in a direction where people's patience is getting shorter and shorter and shorter, we still have somewhat of enough. We definitely have a lot more patience than the new generation. Can you imagine at 3 years old having everything you want to find out in the palm of your hand? You want something online, you just order it, boom, you get it right there. Could you imagine that? When your favorite show came on, you didn't have to sit by the television. You didn't have to watch the TV guide. I was somebody who was constantly on the TV guide. I was always on the TV. As soon as I turned the television on, I was on the TV guide, just to see what was coming on. If my favorite show come on, I'm like, oh man, I gotta wait until this time. Matter of fact, I wasn't even thinking like that. That's just me now looking back, but at the time, you were just used to it. You had to wait. You couldn't just get things when you wanted them. And nowadays, this generation, they get things at the blink of an eye. And when they can't get it, they move on to the next thing. So as a creator, it makes it a lot more difficult for you to try to create in these times, because people are used to getting things quickly. You might spend your whole year or even a couple years making an album. 2 weeks later, they're on to the next. Like, when's your next song coming up? I can only imagine the frustration. So I feel like we're the future, because the older generation, the baby boomers, the Gen Xers, they're not dying anytime soon. Not to be grim about it, but they're not dying anytime soon. They still consume things through the old mediums, radio, television, magazines. They're still there. That's still a customer base that you don't want to ignore. You don't want to just simply go completely digital like the new generation and ignore the old mediums, because that's a huge consumer. The baby boomers, before millennials came along, they was the biggest generation of people. There was more people in that generation than any other that had ever walked the earth. I think we're inching close to that, or we might have passed them, but we're somewhere in the ballpark. We have the same numbers as them. But again, like I said, as a creator, as a business person, as an entrepreneur, are you gonna ignore that huge fan base that's still out there? You don't want to do that. So the younger generation, they didn't live in a world that gave them the patience to even try to promote on these new mediums. A lot of them, they think they could just Google everything and find out everything. A lot of them, you have a teenager that think they're smarter than an 80-year-old. You know what I'm saying? Even though the 80-year-old's been on this planet, done it all, seen it all, a teenager thinks he knows more than them, because he has the internet. Any information he wants, he could go just Google it. So it's understandable why he thinks that, when information is just at the push of a button. But at the same time, we can't just push the older generation out like that. Not only for moral and personal reasons, but just for business reasons. Like I said, the baby boomers, they're the largest generation of all time. That's a huge consumer base. Me as an artist, I want to be able to try to tap into that, as well as use the digital mediums to tap into this new generation. The millennials, we're the only ones equipped. We was born in a time where the internet wasn't as prevalent as it was now. So we know how those old mediums work, and we also know how the new mediums work. It's up to us to combine the two and show the new generation, the Gen Xers, the baby boomers, we can show them how it's done. It's up to us. We're gonna lead the future. We're gonna be the new leaders. You know what I'm saying? And we need to step up. We need to wake up, because a lot of us are sleeping right now. The life that the Gen Xers and baby boomers created, it just doesn't suit us anymore. It doesn't suit us. It suits them. It suited them pretty well. Things like Social Security, the money's gonna run out by the time we're older. If we don't do something right now, I don't want to say there's gonna be a catastrophe, but a lot of us aren't gonna have money by the time we're older. The time we need it, the time we're not young enough to still go out there and work as much, we're not gonna have anything. So we need to step up now. The time is now. All my millennials out there, wake up from your slumber. The world that was told to us, the way the world was presented to us, just doesn't work anymore. At the same time, this new digital only world, that's not working either. A lot of the artists that have come out in the digital era, they've run out of steam already. I don't want to single anybody out or point any, trying to down anybody, but that's just the truth. So the millennials, especially those born in the late 80s, early 90s, it's our time, man. Things is wide open right now. The older generation, they're too old to try to learn new things. That's just, I don't want to say that, but a lot of them. You know, the older you get, the more you get stuck in your ways. So you think some old person that's been listening to radio or watching television, reading print magazine their whole lives, all of a sudden they're gonna switch to watching stuff on YouTube or Netflix, listening to like streaming services or going visiting blog sites? I mean, it's not gonna happen. I'm surprised a lot of them even have cell phones now. I mean, shout out to the ones that do, but you know what they say, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. However, if you have a group of people who understand both worlds and can bring them together, sky's the limit. Just my thoughts, ladies and gentlemen. Random topic. We out.